In the year 2050, there'll be 9 billion people. How do we feed them safely, fairly, and well? And make sure every mouth is fed.
"40-year-old Manmohan Tiwari was working for a top financial firm in India's thriving capital, Delhi. 1,000 people reporting to him. He had it all. Then he gained weight and lost confidence. His fight with obesity had begun. Now, in the last year, he's lost 30 kilos.
My weight was around 97 kgs when I started in Feb 2011. And I reduced it to around 67, 68 within 9 months. I used to look very unpresentable. There was a time that I used to feel that it's not possible for me to reduce my weight. I mean, life is so hard. If in a nucleus family where husband and wife are there and both are working, so if they come back in the evening at 8 o'clock, now what to do? It's better for them to order a fast food kind of a thing rather than cooking a chapati or rice or a dal and sabji.
For Manmohan, future food is healthy food. He's cut the junk food, sugars, fats and salt, and says there's a lesson for us all.
Let's live a long life and a healthy life by having a disciplined and a good food.
Manmohan's won the battle. Prosperity without obesity. Now the rest of the world faces the same dilemma. How to feed the future without a new kind of malnutrition.
As people have better incomes, the diets change, the culture changes. They want processed food, quick, fast. A double career family, they all come back from work at about 6, 7, 8 p.m. What's the fastest food to cook? Open the can, open the packet, and dump everything together. It's junk food.
Every day, as India awakes, 1.2 billion people need to be fed. By 2050, it could be 1.7 billion. Traditionally, Indians have eaten the healthy cuisine of India's 29 states. But as people move to the cities, there's a growing demand for fast, processed food. The so-called junk food, accused of causing obesity and chronic health problems. Now India's a country on the edge of 2 possible futures. A future that's well-fed and healthy, or a future with Western diets and Western obesity.
Now we are going into this whole Western sense. We think about burgers, we think about French fries. So it's like the hamburger assault.
I like eating junk food at times, but it's not like I hate healthy food.
Like just banning junk food in school doesn't stop us from having junk food.
As people have moved to the cities, they've become dependent on highly processed foods, which are heavy in sugar, in fat, in salt, which are processed in order to have a long shelf life. Instead, we must allow urban consumers to have access to fresh, nutritious foods that are produced locally, because that is most healthy.
Tulika Verma lives in the Delhi suburbs. She doesn't do junk food. She eats nutritious fresh food with husband Rahul and their son and daughter. They're appalled there have been no systems or guidelines in India to keep junk food away from schools, where they feel children are especially vulnerable.
I don't rely on junk food because we are not sure that what kind of ingredients they have and its preparation also.
These kind of food can make them happy for a few minutes, but in the long term it would
increase their problems what they are facing.
Tulika and her husband run an NGO, the Uday Foundation, helping children with serious medical conditions. Mostly it's disease or genetic defects. But for many city kids like these, junk food is an increasing issue.
What we notice that some children are having health problems which are inborn or due to some disease. But some children are getting into it due to excessive consumption of junk food in their routine. And that is really harmful for their health.
Malnutrition, experts say, can be an illness carried across the generations, especially by women. And prosperity is no guarantee of an end to malnutrition.
Well, malnutrition is not that correlated with wealth in India. What you find is malnutrition can take a variety of forms. You can have low-calorie malnutrition, you can have high-calorie malnutrition. In the developed world, we're seeing an era of high-calorie malnutrition. In the developing world, we're seeing both. What I think is happening is very rapid economic growth is putting wealth in many new hands in contexts like India. So you have children who were born of mothers who were, poorly nourished, and yet as they grow up, they get access to more and more fat, more and more protein. We find that children of low birth weights, children with poor early childhood health, are at more risk of becoming obese, developing heart disease, developing diabetes, developing stroke. But those poor health indicators in early childhood give them a propensity to contract these types of illnesses later on in life.
School kids in India are less likely to be overweight than young people in China, Russia, Brazil, and the USA, where 1 in 6 young people are obese. But it's far from being entirely good news. Delhi-based Dr. Anup Mishra is one of the world's leading experts on nutrition and obesity. He's especially concerned about junk food's impact over time.
I think it's damaging to all age groups. But the earlier you start, the worse it is, because if you start with the 9 to 11 years age group, and we have studied this particular age group, the obesity tends to become much more harmful within a short period of time. And these children exhibit a whole lot of biochemical problems that we find in adults.
US-based writer on food Raj Patel has studied the effect of growing prosperity on India's diet and health. He says a switch to processed food is already taking its toll.
If you walk in the streets, you won't notice people who are as overweight as they are, say, when you're walking in the streets of New York. But appearances can be deceptive. And actually, if you look at the diabetes rates, India's cities have diabetes rates that are far higher than the United States. If you look at some of the southern cities in India, diabetes rates are at 20%. Now, that's an epidemic. So things are already very bad in India, and that's a mixture of the shift in diet plus genetic predisposition and a range of other social and biological factors. So things are already apocalyptically bad in India.
Junk food gives the body energy without fiber, vitamins, and other nutrients. Critics claim that can cause a health time bomb, potentially causing serious illnesses like diabetes later in life.
Now, these kids who are developing these obesity problems from 9 to 16 or 18 years age group, they will develop diabetes very soon. So maybe by 20, 25 years age group, and by 30, they will develop other complications, maybe heart disease.
My advice to the Indian government is to take this very, very seriously, to look at what we already know about the causes of diabetes, and to get very aggressive with limiting the exposure, particularly that children have, to the marketing that encourages children to want these goods, but also to start getting very aggressive about thinking of new ways in which diet in urban areas can be transformed to leapfrog the public health issues that we already have in the United States, and to deal with the massive public health issues that they already have in India.
A recent study revealed that already over 1 in 6 school children in Delhi are overweight, and almost 1 in 14 are obese. It's one of the reasons why the courts are considering a call for a ban on junk foods in India's schools. Among the petitioners leading the campaign are the Uday Foundation's Tulika and Rahul. Today they're in court calling for India's Food Safety and Standards Authority to set up a new framework for the future of food in India's schools.
Today we had a date in High Court regarding banning junk food in schools. Junk food should be banned. The government is very serious about this issue because it's related to the future generation of our country, that FCCCI might get the guidelines and for banning junk food in schools. That's what we are fighting for.
21st century life is fueling a demand for quickly delivered food. Fast food that's too often unhealthy junk food. A younger population, more working women, hectic schedules. The increasing wealth of middle-class professionals, usually office-based. Some say it's not so much fast food as these new, more sedentary lifestyles which cause obesity. And what's more, people have every right to eat what they want.
I'm against laws that some people might be calling for to ban fast food or even junk food. That while this might be an issue for a tiny segment of India, it's not an issue for most others who are struggling just to get their midday meals. So how is it going to work? Would it mean that you extend the law to tell parents what they can feed their own children or not?
In Delhi, fast food is not just Western-style burgers and pizzas, but Indian equivalents like fried bhaturas, fried pakora, and aloo tikkis. The fast food industry in India is growing by 1/3 a year. But does convenient fast food always have to be unhealthy junk food? Devyani International operate the North and East India franchises of KFC and Pizza Hut, and their own Vango chain based on South Indian food. Their CEO says fast food in India has an unfair reputation.
My personal take is anything what you overconsume is bad for your health. Anything which you overconsume, when you look at the fast food, it's quite healthy, I would say. I'll give examples, like we use zero trans fat oil. We got a lot of salads, we got a lot of soups in our option. My personal take is that fast food is not so bad what people perceive it to be.
It's not just the big chains promoting the idea of healthy fast food. Tulika is visiting famous nutritionist Ishi Khosla. Remember Manmohan? Ishi Khosla is the woman whose healthy eating advice changed his life.
Nice to meet you. Came to have a look at your outlet.
She's founder of India's Whole Foods, and she's been called one of the country's 25 most powerful women.
Is it a status symbol to have the junk food or fast food?
Well, it becomes a trend. It becomes peer pressure or whatever.
Future food could be health food disguised as ordinary pizzas, sodas, or burgers.
You don't say no to a burger, but you make it healthier. You don't say no to a cookie, but you make it healthier. Even the patty here has flax seeds and rich, and we are using fantastic oil, rice bran oil, which is monounsaturated fat. So you silently do the health thing without a person getting that tag that I'm eating something very different.
But can the global obesity epidemic be solved at the retail level? Some say obesity's fundamental cause is the way food's produced, the industrial, often subsidized farming of a few crops, transported over huge distances and heavily processed. So, is there an alternative? Tulika's been doing some research, looking at TV films on how most food's still grown in India. There's Narayan and his wife Nasiva in Andhra Pradesh. They use a blend of traditional knowledge and scientific techniques to grow 7 different varieties of crops and vegetables on just 100 meters of land. They only make about $2 a day, but that's still more than many small farmers in India and the rest of the world.
Are you making money?
Yes, I am.
Do you eat your produce or do you sell it as well?
We eat the produce and sell it as well.
So who taught you?
500 million small-scale farmers like Narayan still supply most of India's food. For some who believe in market-driven economics, this is not efficient. They say that in more advanced economies, farms are bigger and specialize in just a few crops, benefiting from economies of scale. That means fewer farmers who are, per person, more productive.
The number of people who are dependent on agriculture is not a sign of our strength. It's a sign of our weakness. Every country which has developed agriculturally requires a very small percentage of the population capable of feeding the rest and beyond. A few years ago, there was a big survey in India which found 40% of Indian farmers want to sell and move out, but they can't.